What's up, guys? We are back with another PremiumDNA review, taking a look at the most recent entry in the MadBalls line. So about a year ago, I took a look at all of Wave 1 MadBalls, and there was another figure that was sort of advertised along the same lines as Wave 1, but wasn't included. It was an exclusive figure that was coming later, and later is now. So we're taking a look now at the MadBalls TRASHIN pumpkin figure, but this one's kind of a weird one because it's sort of a cross promotion between MadBalls and Need for Speed No Limits, the video game. So there was a Halloween event in that game, and you could decorate your cars with MadBall stuff, and TRASHIN pumpkin was one of the things. So why not get an excuse to make a pumpkin figure? I'm not going to complain about that. Like all the MadBalls and all the PremiumDNA figures overall at this point, we do get a slipcover with this, and it does spell out the fact that this is related to Need for Speed. So you've got, a car on the front, you've got the pumpkin head, the MadBalls logo, Need for Speed No Limits, and then the back just gives you TRASHIN pumpkin, which really cool shot of artwork there. I really do like that. Pop that slipcover off, and you've got the figure there in the window, just like all the previous MadBalls figures. You've got the head down in the corner, you've got some artwork on the spine, you've got more artwork that calls out the Need for Speed No Limits on the other spine, and then the back of the box gives you a bunch of product shots as well as some examples of the accessories he comes with. But we're not taking a look at just one figure here, because there's a second one too. We're taking a look, actually there's three. There's one that has two heads, which is an exclusive. There's one that just has one head, which is the standard version of the figure. And then there is the third version, which is the Apparition Edition, which has glow in the dark. And I mean, it's cool enough to have a pumpkin figure, but you got to make him glow too, right? Why not? So this guy comes with the same slipcover. He comes with the same artwork. There is a little bit more showcasing the fact that his limbs glow on this box. And then, of course, there's more product shots on the back that showcase that his limbs also glow as well. So very similar figures, but glow is glow, so we got to take a look at both. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look.
And here we go, out of the package, our PremiumDNA TRASHIN pumpkin MadBalls figure, and this again is the weird relationship between MadBalls and a Need for Speed game that has resulted in this creation and this figure. And there is also, again, multiple ways to get this guy. 3 different versions, in fact. There's 2 versions of the standard. So there's the standard edition, and there's also an exclusive standard that has an extra head sculpt. Then there's the glow in the dark that has all of the stuff that the exclusive version does, but he has a different paint scheme, and of course he does also glow in the dark to some degree. We are, of course, going to take a look at Articulation, see what this guy can do. I'm only going to look at one because they're the same figure. So we're going to pull the glow-in-the-dark one aside and check out the regular figure and see what this guy's capable of. So as far as moving this thing around, he is fairly normal, like very modern articulation scheme, but the design and the overall build of these figures does kind of get in the way of moving them around to some degree. That was true for basically all of Wave 1. So if you've got Wave 1, you basically know what to expect here. So we've got a head that can basically just sort of bobble in and out, and then it rotates. And I will mention that all of these figures are modular, or well, quote-unquote, madular. So they are meant to be taken apart. So, if you're moving them around and an arm pops out, don't consider it to be a problem. It's supposed to come out easily so you can swap pieces between figures. Arms go out at the shoulder. They rotate. You've got to kind of watch because this jacket has these sort of torn edges, and you've got these spikes, which are kind of pointy. It's kind of rough to move this guy around to some degree. We've got a basically 90-degree single-jointed elbow with rotation, and then you've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. The torso on these guys is basically kind of like a diaphragm cut, but they don't do a lot. You've got a little bit of bobble forward and backward, and then it's a rotation point also. The legs will go out about that far. The jacket gets in the way. You can take the jacket off and it'll go a little bit further. They kick forward about, well, see, like I said, you can take the legs out. So pop that back in. The legs go about that far. They really don't go too far because of how tree trunk-like they are. I don't know a better way to say that. They do swivel backwards. You do have a twist up there, but it's mostly just a twist because it's a peg. It's not exactly a true thigh cut. You've got a single jointed knee that does go back a decent bit, but due to the nature of the design, it only does so much. And then you've got rotation, and we've also, of course, got our ankles down here, which have a decent rocker. The left one rocks better than the right. And then you've got your hinges down here also. So pretty solid hinges. And when I say the left one rocks better than the right, it's because it has this little spike coming out right here. So it only rocks that far. It's still okay, like it's probably not hindered too bad, but it does rock a little bit less than the left. So these guys are, I mean, they're decently articulated, but at the same time, their design does get in the way of some of that movement. And I'm not sure I ever expected otherwise, especially after seeing Wave 1. I kind of knew what to expect going in here, but you can get them in a sort of menacing poses. They can do a walk, things like that. Overall, they have all the articulation you would expect to find, but a lot of their bulk really does get in the way sometimes. The visuals on this figure was ultimately what I've always been interested in, though, because, well, I know what to expect from Wave 1, so I know what they can and can't do as far as articulation. But this is a big, bulky pumpkin figure. I mean, very Halloween. It's the right time for it, and I really think they nailed it. Again, going in from Wave 1, I knew what to expect. Paint and sculpt is just tremendous on this line, and that's essentially what it is. The MadBalls, I mean, even back in the 80s, they were covered in detail, and they were covered in just that sort of late 80s, early 90s, everything has to be gross factor. These figures play up that quite well. This guy maybe isn't as gross as some of the others because, you know, he doesn't have like a big axe wound, you know, leaking blood all over him, but he still looks kind of nasty and gross, and he's certainly going to mesh with Wave 1. I do really like the jacket overlay. I think it looks really good. All these stitches all over him. You've got the purple and black shirt. We've got the vines that run all over the body and all the spikes. And again, the spikes are spiky, so, you know, watch out. He's got like the short stubby legs with the torn pants. It's kind of like a Frankenstein-y thing almost. And then just tons and tons of detail all over him. Every bit of this figure has some sort of texture to him, and that texture is covered in a dry brushing and a wash to bring out that sculpt and to just make him look even more detailed and just gross for the sake of being gross. The jacket, you know, all these torn, jagged edges, the stitch work all over it, and the focal point, I mean, clearly for this regular version, the focal point is going to be the head sculpt because it's a big, evil jack-o'-lantern head with a cross for one eye, with this oozing mouth. You've got this sort of wound up on the head, you know, sort of leaking Halloween ooze. You've got the stem up top, which is on like a gnarled piece of vine with spikes coming out of it. You've got these big gouges in the back of the head, leaking more of that nastiness, and just the expression on this face and the sort of black void within. And it's not just a hole. I mean, it is sculpted relief. So there's a lot of depth there. It just looks tremendous, and the head on it alone is really worth the price of admission. And this isn't even the cool head. Like this is the standard head. The extra head is the one that is really, really cool by comparison. So this is the one to get you started, and then we'll have the other one here in a minute. And then here is our Apparition Edition, just for a comparison's sake. So these guys are really similar, but they're also very different. So the color schemes are very much changed up. And then again, this one does glow in the dark, which we'll get to here in a minute. So you've got on him here all of the same stuff, same configuration, but you can see that the shirt is a different color, the jacket's a different color, the pants are a different color, the flesh, whatever you want to call it, is a different color because the skin on the arms and the feet will glow. The vines are a different color, all that stuff. Even the paint on the head is a little bit different, like the actual stem is a little bit different color. The ooze and stuff like that is the same. But you do have two distinct options. It's not just a straight, well, let's make him glow, and he's the same. They did change up the appearance enough to justify maybe a second purchase or to have one preference over the other. So you've got this one or both, and you can kind of have whichever one you prefer. I do think I really like the color scheme on this one. Again, you can mix and match though if you want. You can take him apart, put that silver shirt on the regular one, put the purple jacket on the regular one, whatever you want to do. I think the purples might clash though, probably not the best idea, but I do think he looks fantastic in either configuration. And then of course, this guy does glow in the dark, and I will say that the glow is maybe not exactly what I was expecting because I really thought that the head was going to glow super bright, and what they've done is that the arms and the feet are painted heavily in that glow in the dark paint. The head sort of has like an overspray of it. So you still retain the orange head, but you get a glow, sort of like a frosted effect all over it. It still works really well, but the arms and the feet glow like a beacon by comparison to what the head does. So you maybe hit it with a black light really hard and you'll get it to glow. It does stay pretty long too. I've not had any issues with it fading too quick. So I'm really happy with what it does do when it comes to the glow. I just kind of thought for some reason that this head was going to glow super, super bright, just like the arms and the feet do, but it is a little bit of a different thing to sort of give it, I guess, to play up the idea that it is an apparition. So, I mean, I'm very, very pleased with the visuals on these. I think they did a great job. The sculpt, the paint is just through the roof. Tons and tons of detail, like just oozing out of this figure. Now, as far as some size comparisons go, you know, these guys very much exist in kind of their own realm because they're big, they're bulky, they're chunky, but they don't necessarily scale with anything, and they aren't exactly meant to. They're big, beefy figures. You can fudge them in anything because they are their own thing. So we've got Mezco Conan over here on the left for like a more normal, but maybe slightly small 1/12 figure. And then we've got our most recent Marvel Legends Apocalypse here on the right for, what a Build-A-Figure kind of size figure would look like. Let's move Conan aside. Here is a Super 7 Ultimate, so here's Optimus Prime, which I guess is basically just the same as showing you Apocalypse. Let's move him aside, and here is a Mythic Legions figure. This is a pretty good indicator, I think. They are basically the same height, roughly, as a Mythic Legions figure, but it's all about the bulk. They have tons and tons of bulk. There's a lot of plastic with these guys. So they're not necessarily going to go with much of anything, but at the same time, because they are their own thing, there's just this big pumpkin monster that just happens to be sized up with your other figures. Now, as far as accessories goes, this line generally is very stacked with accessories, and the Trashin' Pumpkin is no exception. There's a lot of stuff here, and it's all pretty fantastic. I'm really happy with this guy's loadout. Now, we do get an extra head sculpt, but like I said, there are 3 different versions of this figure. This is the standard version, and this is how he comes. He doesn't have an extra head sculpt. There is an exclusive version that includes this head sculpt, and then of course, this being the apparition version, also includes it as well. So you get this head, the James Groman designed head, in 2 of the 3. And this one, it's my preference. It's a lot nastier. It plays up the disgusting aspect of MadBalls a lot more. So there's there's a knife sticking out of the back of the head. There's more goop and slime oozing out of him. There's bugs crawling all over his rotting jack-o'-lantern skull. You've got spiders on him. You've got an eye falling out of the socket. You've got another eye in the head. So this one actually has eyes compared to the other one. And it's just grosser and it's a little bit different. It's very similar, but to me it's infinitely cooler just because of all the gunk that's all over it. So I'm really happy with this head sculpt. And another instance where you might want to get 2 versions to be able to have both. Now, beyond that, we do get a bunch of extra stuff. We get a lot of hands. There are 9 extra hands in this box. So he has fists on him in the box. You get a set of pointing hands, and one has the vine and one doesn't. You get a set of gripping hands, both with the vine that wraps around. We get a set of naked, no vine, gripping hands. We get a set of open palm, just sort of cupping, hand-shaking hands almost with no vine. And then you get a singular hand, left hand with the vine that is the same as this one right here. So there's a bunch of different options when it comes to that, because on these, the left hands, some have vines on them in the box. So there's kind of an option of, do you want one with a vine? Do you want one without a vine? So you get that extra one in there also. And then he comes with a bunch of weaponry and one really goofy accessory. We get this severed hand. This is not one that he can actually use, but it's one that you can actually have him hold. So it's like a zombie hand almost. You've got the exposed wrist bone, some blood splatter, a lot of decaying flesh all over it, tons of paint apps, great detail all over this thing. We get a tire iron, which is covered in bugs and vines and blood, and there's an eyeball sticking out of one end with the tendon wrapped around it. This thing's kind of gummy, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather it be gummy than super hard where I can't get it in the hand. This thing's cool. Lots of paint detail all over it, tons of little things all over it. And that's kind of the name of the game with some of this stuff, is they all have just some gunk on them. We get this piston weapon, which is quintessential MadBalls because it's covered in rusty screws and nails. You've got blood splatter all over the top. You've got a bandage, a wrap around it for the grip, and then you can whack somebody in the head with that. But then we get kind of his signature accessory. We get the big pitchfork, which is covered in worms. You've got this big entrails that have been impaled on it. Blood splatter all over the top, some slime. And I love this. This very much goes with the idea of a Halloween horror theme type of MadBall, but it's just quintessential MadBalls at the same time because of all the goop and the nastiness. So, this guy is absolutely loaded. You get, 3 weapons? 4 if you count this as a weapon, bash somebody with a zombie hand. You get 9 extra hands on top of the fists, and then depending on which version you get the awesome, and I can't overstate that, I don't think, awesome head sculpt here with all of that extra added gunk and muck and doodads and all of the ooze and the eyes pouring out of it. Just a lot of cool stuff to even, beef up this already cool figure. So yeah, overall, I am very, very happy with this figure. Again, it's probably like my favorite one out of the MadBalls, and it's weird because this has no real vintage basis. This is a very modern interpretation on something because of the MadBalls Need for Speed thing and how this guy was created. But I'm really happy they translated him into a figure. It's the right time for a pumpkin guy, and when is not a right time for a pumpkin guy, really? But I think they just killed it with this one. Details through the roof, paint apps, sculpt, the whole 9 yards. Articulation is solid, if not a little bit limited, but it's all about the visuals. And I love the fact that there are different options with this one. You've got the regular version, you've got the exclusive version with that awesome, awesome head sculpt, and then you've got the glow-in-the-dark version if you wanted to get something even more different that has its own unique color scheme. So yeah, there's a lot to enjoy with this figure. He comes with a lot of cool stuff. He looks fantastic. I really can't ask for too much more when it comes to this line. So that's going to do it for this look at the PremiumDNA Trashin' Pumpkin MadBalls figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.